What's up, everybody? As you can see, it is moving week here in the Stone household, but I want to get you guys a quick update for this week's episode. We are talking with Liz Greene, and we're specifically talking about the Q4 playbook that she's used year after year to get great results. It's a great conversation. Liz always brings her A game, and she actually even has like a downloadable thing that you can contact her for after this if you want to get the playbook she's using. And before we get into the show, a quick plug for my agency, Stone's Goods, a shameless plug here. There's a link in the description below if you want to get an audit from our business. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the episode. Welcome back, everybody. We've got another friend of the pod, Liz Greene here. Liz of Jungler, as you can see in her very fancy background. Liz, thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me back. These are always fantastic conversations, and I always walk away with more insights. So I'm excited.
Yeah, same here. Well, look, I'm excited to get into it. You and I were kind of talking offline, and you said, look, I've got something that I've been working on that I think could be really valuable to the audience. And I think we should just get into it. Let's talk about Q4.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is a strategy we stress tested more rigorously than we had been able to back in February 2023 is really when we stress tested it. And then those learnings, which you will see, I'll share the data with you, found, and then so it was around like a Valentine's Day launch. So it's like a highly seasonal, but it's one of those. There's a lot of things that in like peak seasonal events do kind of translate into Q4. It's just the time frame is so condensed, and so it's really like it's a ride or die thing, which I think allowed us to really walk away with some really great learnings. And then we basically were like, hey, we kind of developed this playbook. We have this thesis of some adjustments that we think really work well during even kind of tentpole events or even a more extended event like Q4. Let's try it in Q4. So it was the same account plus another account. We tested it on, again, this was last year, 2024, 2023. Then we tested it 2024 Q4, and it worked really well. And then we took that same learning and we stress tested it again on, years are blending. So 2023, we're looking at 2024 Valentine's Day and Q4, and we're like, okay, this really works. So this is not something that like we just developed, like, hey, I just found out this thing. It's something that we've stress tested and run. What is that, like 2 years now? And then it's one of those, like, I'll talk about it on podcasts or I'll give it out as insights. And I finally sat down and was like, all right, I need to write the playbook because there is a playbook, but I need to write it down if I can give it away easier. So that's what we did.
Well, look, let's get into it. Let's start with the playbook. I know you've got some visuals you kind of wanted to share. Let's just jump in. I'm excited.
Yeah, let's go through it. So this is the playbook, which you can absolutely get a hold of. So these are the learnings that we got in the beginning. So pretty drastic, right? And I'll show you exactly the metrics of why we went from a 6.7 to a 28.9% profit margins. And like I said, this is definitely a tested playbook. So there was basically one thing that we found. So it wasn't necessarily a lot of the base strategies. That's what I'm really interested to talk to you, because I know a lot of the same strategies I'm talking about here, you all do as well. So a lot of them are time-tested things that are just good practices during Q4. The one difference that we found is it really is about the timing. And if you get the timing wrong, it doesn't work out and you basically lose your margins. So here's how to not lose margins.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and honestly, it's built off of this is something that we ran across. I was on a call with a client last Friday, and some of the products are winding down, and the question was like, hey, like, should we try ranking them? Like, I know the products are kind of going offline. There's some are like, yeah, some are fall products, clothing were going to fall. So it's like, should we try and capture some market share? And we can say, like, unequivocally, based on what we've been doing for the past 2 years, no, that's probably not a good idea. if we don't want to lose margins. Now, again, if you have excess inventory, there's other reasons why you might want to do that, but you've probably heard this strategy, is pre-ranking before like a Q4 rush. So like, hey, let's throw a bunch of ad dollars behind it. Let's make sure we're ranked page 1, and then we will end up with like record-breaking sales, and then we know profitability is going to get better during Q4. So like all things will equal out to be positive. That's a thesis. And to be honest, like it sounded smart, so we tried it, right? And what we found is that it didn't work. So what we did, again, I'm talking 2023 Valentine's Day. A client launched a whole bunch of new products. For context, this client is crazy aggressive. So he's like, ride or die, let's go. So brand new products, 0 reviews. So a lot of things are behind the 8 ball. We're like, all right, let's push it right. And so we really started pushing it as soon as the products came into, were available, but we were really, really pushing it hard. And so when peak season really happened, like we put in 52,000, which is a hefty budget to spend in like a 60-day period. So we got like 135K in sales, a seller badge in 3 days, and we had page 1 ranking. So like overall, looking at that, you're like, it would seem as if it's a win. And then when we assessed afterwards, we realized there was a 6.7% margin left over after 135K. I mean, you did math. I think it was like $9,000 in profits, which, I mean, at least we made profits. We didn't lose anything with that budget. That being said, we're like, okay, that's probably not the greatest thing. And so when we were analyzing we analyzed the search volume, and you really, especially if you have seasonal products, you can see the peaks and valleys of search volume. And so what we realized is we overlaid those with our sales. No matter how much we pushed up our spend, there seemed to be a limit on how much we could get in total sales for that.
Mm.
And when you overlaid when the sales started to pick up, again, despite us trying to push ad spend before, you see it basically almost exactly mirrors search volume trends, like to a T. And so we're like, okay, so if we can't really outpace consumer behavior, what if we just tried to mirror it with our pushes and ad spend? But I know you were talking ahead of this, and I think you had a conversation, I don't know if it was recorded or offline, with Brian Johnson. You're saying, hey, there might be a possibility of doing it off season, but it's not through advertising.
Yeah. So it's actually live on our channel. And we do talk about the strategy that you're talking about, where like, hey, we want to grow our rankings leading into Q4.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can do it. And we are currently doing it. Like we're actively pursuing this on a couple of different companies we work with, but we're not doing it through like excess spending.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it through excess conversion rate enhancement. So whether that's cutting price, running deals, running promotions, like you need to be doing something that, if you think about the formula, it's traffic and conversion. Well,
Mm-hmm.
PPC is traffic, like,
Right.
so even if you spend more money and increase your traffic, if your conversion rate doesn't grow, your rankings can't grow and your
Yeah.
sales can't grow accordingly. So then what that actually tells you is the only way that you can do this is by sacrificing or by doing things to improve your conversion rate. Usually that involves sacrificing margin, but
Mm-hmm.
doing it through promotional activities, not through ad spend. And so I
Yeah.
completely agree with everything you're saying. And because I've seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
I've been asked to run a playbook that I said, look, I'm not sure this is going to work because you can't spend your way past the market,
Yeah.
but you can convert your way past the market. And actually, we got the idea from like Chinese sellers who will just drop their price like crazy leading up to any kind of flagpole event. What they'll
Mm-hmm.
do is they'll run like a crazy discount. Like, if I'm honest, I've been in the market for an e-bike for like 2 years, but I want an e-bike for like $250. and no one's willing to sell them for that price. But then I went onto the best-selling e-bike and I looked at Helium 10, and they actually did sell their e-bikes for $250 for like 3 days before Prime Day to
Mm.
get themselves up to the top of the page. And I was like, could have been one of the people who took advantage. I just didn't, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
So that's
So
where I got
yeah,
the
so like
idea.
you're saying, I love that you can't, you can't outpace the market, but you can increase conversion rates. So yes,
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic call out and in addition to this playbook. But what we find is a lot of our brands going into peak season, they're like, we're not even really going to run significant discounts during Prime Day. Like a lot of them are protecting their margins, which you totally get. It's a business,
Hmm.
right? We got to run it. And so I would say if you're not doing anything crazy with pricing, then you need to make sure that you time the market, essentially,
Mm.
is what you're
Yeah.
looking to do.
Agreed.
So yeah, I mean, in terms of, so this is like our before and after. So you can see like this is what we ran. Now this isn't quite apples to apples because this is Q4, but you're looking at, 800K, which is a 28.9% margin. So you're looking at 238 change in margins, which not too shabby. And again, I think that's over a month period or so. So significant decrease. And that's essentially, so this is a screenshot. You can see our before seasonal total A cost is running at about 13%. And then
Hmm.
obviously it goes down and there's some peaks when we're trying to, make up for some stuff. But overall, you're looking at pretty solid even before traffic, where before when we were running it, because we were outpacing and spend goes up, sales stay flat, total A cost goes through the roof. And so there was pretty significantly high total A cost pre-season, which is what we had before, which ate into margins. Now, during the season, we had fantastic A costs. Things were down, everything was super profitable, but because we were spending so much off season, when you zoom out and you look at the whole picture, it just doesn't translate into the margins that you need. And again, you can see these peaks pretty much exactly crescendo to search volume trends. Pretty
Could you
significant.
zoom in? I like this graph, but I can't see everything right now
Yes.
because I think this is a really helpful graphical representation. I don't know why I never thought to put sales over like sessions. Like, yeah, and over search volume. Yeah, this is so crazy. Like, this makes perfect sense. My goodness. Yeah, I really like this because this just, it's so obvious. Oh, when there's a lot of traffic, you're a lot more likely to sell lots of product.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
you
if
can
you,
see like our ramp up. So this is spend right here. Our
mhm.
ramp up basically perfectly mirrors the sales trends. And then at some point, sales trends just take off in excess of our spend, which is what you want to see during peak season. But we're not pushing above the sales trend line, which is what was happening before and what most sellers do when they're trying to rank off season.
Yep, that's completely logical. That makes
And
perfect
so,
sense.
I mean, we basically have, so I wanted to give everyone the playbook. Like I said, I've talked about this before and like, hey, you want to make sure that you're not overspending and you want to time it with the market and all of these things. But I sat down and wrote it down because really what we find is that there's 3 stages. And there's things and actions that need to happen during all 3 stages. So the 3 stages are one, pre-traffic prep, which you can absolutely do now, up until it's happening. So this is the time where shoppers aren't buying that. So your job is to clean out the junk, prime winners, look at last year's reports, spot patterns. You're basically understanding when can I expect the traffic to hit, and then making sure that the account is in a solid place so you know it's strong when it does hit and you have the ad strategy to capture it. Then of course there's a high traffic execution. So when the traffic hits, this is where profits are made or lost. So you really need to start doubling down again because it's not that you're not running advertising before peak season. It's that we're not just like trying to get overly aggressive. So just like pushing up a cost and saying like, oh, that's fine, we're gonna gain ranking. So we're
Mhm.
still running advertising. We're just being more cautious, but this is really where rubber meets the road. And then this is the thing that I find so many people to get this wrong. They get all of this wrong, to be honest, but mostly this, where it's like post traffic cleanup, because there's two things that happen. One, sometimes people just like pause everything and they're like, "Oh, season's over. We're just gonna like shut it down." Or the second thing that they'll do, which is honestly what I've heard is the most common, is either they have a software running or somebody not really paying attention to it. Everyone signs off for Christmas. And then it's just kind of like the ads are left to spend at Q4 levels. And traffic and sales are not there. And all of a like in some nature, ACOS and total ACOS are going to go up. It just
Mhm.
will, but it doesn't have to go up to, like, a astonishing degree.
Yeah. I honestly, the post-traffic cleanup is so important,
Mhm.
and it does make your job as someone who does PPC a little bit of a bummer because it's like December 23rd and you're like working like crazy.
I'll tell you
And
one thing though, we did have, we had a brand, they took their ads in-house, but, they had one of their best days of the year on the 26th.
really,
They had a product that was it wouldn't be something you would give as a gift, but it was
mm,
something that was an accessory to a very common gift.
interesting.
It was really interesting. I think that's the only account I've ever seen. It was really kinda crazy. Like, they had a sane sales spike. So there, we were being careful and we're not overcorrecting.
Yeah, that's very fair. Normally what we do is unless there's some seasonal reason for like a really good post sales or post Christmas sales thing, um, we will cut first. We'll do sponsored brands and sponsored displays. We'll just cut ad spend
Mhm,
aggressively on those, and then for sponsored products, we'll cut the budgets and we'll also put an account level budget
mhm.
in place. And we found that that's been really effective because
Yeah.
there is lots of traffic, but conversion rate falls off a cliff. And
Yes.
so we generally try to just accept that as a fact. And sure, there are things you can do to work against it, but the smartest play is to clean up your traffic as the, just like that graph you showed.
Yes.
When the graph,
I agree. That might be interesting to go through. So we have like uh we put together a checklist for like the pre-traffic
mm,
prep post. And so I'd be interested if you have anything to add, maybe I need to add to this. But what we do is so pre-traffic, it's the shoppers aren't buying yet, so your goal is to position the account so when the traffic starts, you're ready. So we found out
mm,
there's like three different things to do. One is just pinpointing the demand of when the traffic hits. So our goal
mm,
here is knowing when the seasonal peak should start. We want to look at roughly within a week, and ideally we're looking at a per product level. Generally speaking, if you have like a brand with similar products, then it should be relatively similar. Um, we could talk about the tactics for that. We make sure we have campaigns to leverage. I mean, like if you don't have any really good campaigns. So the goal here is set up with campaigns that can actually capture the demand once it spikes. You want to have something to increase.
mm,
And then the last one is clean up to protect waste and budget. So goal is eliminating distractions so budget flows to winners. It's those
yeah.
3 things. This is the one that I think most people know how to, like, make sure stuff is running. This is the one we look at. We pull historical search trends on our top
Mhm,
products and keywords. So we look at both highly relevant keywords, and then we also look at, like, overall broader keywords. Because here we're not really looking at keywords to target. We're simply looking for, like, market signals. So
mhm,
you probably don't wanna go in something like gifts for mom. That's probably a little bit too specific. But you could
mhm,
look at things like, say you have a gift basket, like gift baskets for mom, or something that you're like, okay, maybe I can't compete on that keyword. I know it's my main keyword, but I can at least see sort of like where the market trends are happening. And roughly within a week, I could have an idea of that.
yeah. Normally what uh, I've seen, camping products. So camping has a really extreme version of this
Yeah.
where like the Q4 search traffic absolutely explodes. Like camping accessories, camping gifts for men, camping gifts for women. Like there's just all these every year it just explodes and it's often in very strange directions and
Mm.
it doesn't always replicate. So like what it was
Yes.
last year might not be the same as what it is this year.
Yes.
But one of the things that we've done to combat that is testing different phrase match campaigns.
Mhm.
And then also, you got to watch quite quickly whenever search query performance or anything like
Mhm.
that. Like, look at the previous week during Q4 to see, okay,
Yep.
did we not hit something? You know?
Yeah, and that's something I mean, we've seen a similar sort of erratic behavior in some of our clothing brands. So, what we found out with those, especially because it's a lot easier to understand with clothing, is
Mm,
that sometimes it's weather pattern dependent is what we found. So, we had one brand where, they had a very it was a baby item, but it was made for, like, cold weather, and so
mhm,
cold hits and everybody goes, "Oh crap, I don't have a jacket for the baby." And there was a weird cold snap across the nation in, like, September, and, like, their
mm,
sales just, like, absolutely overnight there is no predicting, like, how do you predict a cold weather pattern? But a lot of that is like, "Oh, the weather's nice, let's go camping. Oh, the weather's, like, really cold, let me bundle the baby." Like, so
yeah.
there is some of that, which is again, it's a little bit difficult, but you should typically know, like, you're not gonna see don't ever expect us to see like a cold snap in January. We might know that some weird things could happen in September, October, right? So again,
Mhm,
generally as speaking, you at least want to get a gauge. Sometimes it's within the month.
mhm,
Sometimes it's within a couple weeks, depending on, like um, if it's say like a Valentine's Day, you might say like, oh, it's the weekend before that Mother's Day, that's when everyone's like, "Oh crap, I need to get" right? Or, it tends
yeah.
to hit on a weekend, so it may not be a specific weekday. So there are weird nuances like that, but overall, it's mostly just like go through, do the digging, see if you can find any sort of patterns. And then, of course, like you said, checking your last year's sales curves and conversion rates is huge. If you have historical data in the account to do it, like look at it. And then
Mhm,
again, if you have, like, a large account, I would say, like, look at your top products. You should know, roughly speaking. Again, historical data is really good for this. So I could say, "Okay, last year, what were my best performers?" And, dig into those ones specifically.
that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is one I'm sure that you have is, just confirming that campaigns are live, top keywords are in there, they're funded. Like, you should, if you're going to increase something, you got to know what you're going to increase.
Mhm,
And we also like to set budgets on proven campaigns so they're ready to scale. So that's one thing when we look at the signals. Because I have in here some like signals on transitions. You just want to make sure that you have budgets. So like if your budget's running out on like all of your campaigns in your entire account, you might actually miss signals that you could have found a
mm,
lot sooner. If you have, I mean, even if you just have like a low bid auto somewhere that's uncapped, that could be helpful. And again, check placement types and, different ad types. Just make sure you're not mentioning any kind of critical coverage in the account. So make
mhm.
sure the good stuff is there. Again, focusing on top performers. And then cleanup. This should be a classic. You should be doing this all day, every day. But, cutting bleeders, adding negative keywords on low clicks, irrelevant terms. We do pause if there's like a whole bunch of child variations and there's ones that are just like, these aren't winners. It's not worth it to test. Pause those. We do audit budgets. You do want to kill or cap like wasted campaigns. So again, they don't siphon ad dollars.
A lot. Especially if you have, like, an account level budget you have to hit. You
Hmm.
like, your higher ACoS campaigns can eat up all your budget before your low ACoS campaigns can actually kick in. So, it's important to keep that in mind.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then in terms of the transition, so again, looking at what the heck was that? Looking at like when you're gonna hit. So we're looking for shopper signals. So you keep working on this, and then you keep an eye on this. And a pro tip here is business reports. Like ideally, in an ideal world, I would be looking at sessions and conversion rates. There is a 2-day lag, sometimes 3-day lag on that data, which, like, totally sucks. I want it real time.
Yeah.
So what we do is look at clicks and spend that are climbing. So, like, they're climbing, it's not just, like, a one-day blip. Any of your proven campaigns, like, all of a sudden start capping out. That's why we have at least some budgets to keep an eye on. Conversion rates holding steady, so typically is, like, ad conversion rates. Or
Mhm,
if you're seeing, like, search volume rising, again, search query performance would be fantastic. There's about a week delay on that. So,
mhm.
We're looking at, just volumes to see like, all right, can we determine, oh wow, volume is starting to pick up.
That's really interesting. Um, like, what are some of the ways you could get real time signals? I guess you could
Yeah,
use.
so I mean, there's technically what is it, marketing stream data.
Mhm,
It's all right. We just look at the ad account daily. So what we do is we zoom out in stage 1, we're looking
mhm,
at when can we roughly evaluate, and then we know, okay, within this 2-week period, we need to make sure that we're monitoring the account pretty closely. And then during that 2-week period, we're checking daily, and then we just check yesterday's data is what we do.
mm,
So you're still
okay,
technically looking at probably a 12-hour lag, but that's better than
mhm.
a 2 or 3 or a week lag.
Yeah, that's very true. Something that we did a while ago, and I like you just kind of made me think about this, but there's the search term impression share report, and if you do it daily, and like they'll give you like last 7 days data, I think. Um, and what you could do is for any top keyword that you have spend on every single day, what you can do is actually extrapolate your search term impression share and then extrapolate and those impressions and then say how many total impressions were there and then compare that graph day over day. So you could have a graph of day over day data
True.
12 hours late. It just, yeah, that's just something you made me think of. I'm like, oh man, it's been
I
a
like
while
that.
since.
I like that.
Yeah.
Which is why I was excited to have this conversation because I was like, I'm sure there's gonna be some really cool stuff that came out of it.
Fun fact, they won't put search term impression share in the API because
I
I'm
know.
sure they figured out.
I've
Yeah.
looked.
Yeah.
I have looked. Or
Yeah.
I've looked. I've asked my developer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. And then this is
Anyways.
the high traffic execution. So again, goal is maximizing profits during peak demand. You want to look at fast ramp up. So our ramp up period, again, because we're not being overly aggressive. Again, it's not because we're not running ads at
Hmm.
all. So we are running ads, we're looking at those for signals, and then we're like, okay, when is it go time? And so for there,
Hmm.
what we do ramp up is we check ad performance daily, sometimes twice a day, morning and evening. Business reports again are too delayed, so we look at ads. We
Hmm.
gradually increase budgets only on campaigns that are already converting. So again, we're not going crazy. It's not like, oh, all budgets out of the gate. It's all right. Where are our winners? How do we double down? How do we keep increasing
Mm,
those? We do bid optimizations on underperforming campaigns before increasing budgets. If we know this is a solid keyword, we still want to cap the budgets, but we want to make sure we're not overspending. And then again, we expect spend to rise in sync with the traffic, so we don't try and force it early. We're simply trying to like fast ramp up as consumer behavior ramps up. So then it's pretty aggressive with the ad
mm,
optimizations, but then
yep.
from there we can start getting into our usual cadence, which is doubling down on winners and cutting early, which again is good practice. So then you kind of go into your typical peak season Q4. So this is really prepping, and this is kind of where the secret ramp up sauce comes in. And then again,
Mm,
pro tip about the first 72 hours are critical. Again, sometimes you can't time it as well, but again, if you're looking for signals, what we found is small adjustments can compound fast. So if you're reacting quicker than the rest of your market and their budgets are running out, then you're ahead of the game.
makes an absolute ton of sense. Just being able to react and being able to do something that your competition's not doing is just
Hmm.
the best practice in general, especially when it comes to using ads to get ahead of everyone else. Like that's really, really intelligent. I think that's a great
Right.
call. Yeah.
But you're timing it with conversion rate, ideally, providing you
Yeah.
have good products, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And then, yeah, so from there, after the first day, like 3 to 4 days, you're still like increasing budgets on proven campaigns, again, with strong A costs and conversions. You're still strategically increasing top performers. Again, we're only scaling where conversion rates and A costs justify it. I
Hmm.
heard some horror stories. I think these are super old school strategies. People used to be like, for Prime Day, we just go in and like increase everything. Like it needs to be very strategic and intentional, but you still can start getting more aggressive on stuff. And then again,
Hmm.
you still want to kill bleeders because a lot of traffic's going to come in. Search terms that weren't there before are going to start triggering. A lot of clicks are going to start happening on maybe those random long tail keywords. That's pretty classic. And so you just want to make sure, again, we're pausing anything. Sometimes there's not enough traffic to really test things in the account, certain products, again, irrelevant key or, some keywords that are in there. And then again,
Hmm.
you just want to keep auditing your budget cap. So again, you're wasted. You want to make sure that your budget's going to winners, not losers.
Mm, I like that a lot. And I think that's also something that's really important. It's like if you don't um if you don't pay attention to that, you can really get caught flat-footed, and yeah, it can really hurt your sales and profitability and margin, more importantly, as you kind of laid out here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then this is the last one. The thing is post Prime Day, so like that whole playbook afterwards, which it sounds like you have a solid playbook for, so
Hmm.
I'd be interested to know. But this one is a little bit more defined. So what
Hmm.
we found is the drop always comes after some sort of hard deadline. Typically, once the products can't arrive by a certain date. So, like Christmas in Q4, it's pretty much what is it, the doesn't arrive by Christmas badge.
Hmm.
Sometimes, like, one year it happened on December 22nd, and then another year it happened all as early as the 19th. So I would say, like, just pay close attention to it. Other temple days, like Mother's Day, Father's Day, there's a cutoff. Again,
Hmm.
so this is really dependent. And then Prime Day and seasonal promos, typically the demand drops after the event. So that one's kind of an event cutoff. And I would say definitely you want to track your own products. So this is really dependent on your specific inventory levels as well as Amazon's own logistics is typically what determines this. So again, just pay attention, but that's pretty much your signal, and you will see it in the sales and you will see it in the conversion rates. All of a sudden it just goes boop all the way down.
Do you want to know our tricks?
Yes, I do.
Feel free to like add this to the document if you have time.
Yeah.
Um, but our trick, and I learned this from living in San Francisco. So when my wife and I first moved to the United States, we moved to like the middle of the city in San
Hmm.
Francisco, and there are like Amazon trucks everywhere,
Yeah.
causing traffic jams. It's a whole thing. But what did I learn? I learned that when I forgot to get my brother-in-law a gift on December 23rd, it would still ship to our house in time. Um,
Nice.
and so, but but I
For
was
the
in the
rest.
middle of cutting budgets everywhere else.
Yeah.
And what it made me realize is actually this is a geographic specific problem. But the
It is.
smartest thing for you to do is to go to your bestsellers and kind of check their delivery times in a bunch of different big metro areas.
Hmm.
So we like to do New York, San Francisco, just because I have the zip code in my head, somewhere in Florida, somewhere in Texas, and then maybe one or two cities in the Midwest. And as soon as even half of those cross the does not arrive, that's when you cut budgets because you can't segment by zip code using
Yeah.
in Amazon ads. But if you know half of your inventory, half of your ad dollars will be wasted because people can't get it before the delivery date, that's
Yeah.
how you find out. And so make yourself a list of handy zip codes, like, one for Minneapolis, one for Houston, one for like just different places around the United States or whichever geo you're selling in. If it's the UK, get a bunch of zip or postal codes, um, and do that. It is so handy because you can confidently present a
Mm.
case to anyone like this is why we are
Yeah.
cutting budgets today, even though sales look like they're still good.
That's a fantastic tip. I like that. I have to add that for sure. Yeah, and I'm assuming your playbook is very similar to ours. So it's basically
Hmm.
dropping ad spend and then also making sure you're not going too crazy in dropping
Hmm.
is what we found. So classic is like pausing clicks with zero sale keywords or high cost campaigns. Pro tip, use shorter look back windows. I'm sure this is
Hmm.
something that you guys do. Like
Hmm.
what I mean, you can even use yesterday's data, but like 3 to 7 days is probably solid. Again, it depends on how far out you are from that change. This is
Hmm.
the main thing that I find most softwares get wrong because they typically use like a longer look back rolling averages or like a
Hmm.
weighted average, which makes sense, you know, 3/4 of the year, right? It does not make sense, and so I have seen so many people either overcorrect, so just shut it down, or more often than not what happens is somebody doesn't turn it down or the software doesn't turn it down quick enough, and there's this
Mm,
theory that like, "Oh, because not many people are shopping, like, things will just naturally wind down," and that's not the case. What I find is there's a whole bunch of window shoppers, people just, like, clicking around, just hoping that something's gonna get there on time. And so,
hmm.
like, the spend tends to be pretty significant if you don't get on top of this.
Yeah, yeah, that is very true. It's like you really gotta we don't use we do use automation software, but we don't use it to manage bids.
Mm,
Like bids and placements are things we control. We also don't use it for budgets. It's more for like negative keywords and kind of like automating other good behavior. But
yeah,
we found that bids, budgets, and placements are three things that no software has gotten right yet.
mhm,
And so we'd rather have a human do it.
yeah. Yeah, we have a human software or human algorithm hybrid that we use.
Yeah, nice. But yeah, I completely agree. I think dropping ad spend on weak campaigns, especially if they don't have a purpose beyond Q4, is
Mhm.
really important. And then like protecting profitable stragglers, that's a really smart thing to do, especially if you've got a straggler that isn't gonna hurt the account. Why don't you just let it be?
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
that's the thing is if you're looking at shorter look back windows, you can tell what those things are. You're like, "Oh, wow, this thing's still spending, but, like, it actually has good ACO." Like, why would I not keep that? So it's similar to what we did before is, like, you understand what parts of the account you need to be careful with, and then what
Mm,
parts are just, like, bleeding out, and you could just be more confident with cutting back.
yeah, completely agree. Really well said.
And I think that's everything else other than yeah, it's just a lead magnet. Book a call.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when we are when we're talking about this, to recap for everyone, what are the key things? Like if you could give people just a few things to as like a memory, and obviously if they go to your website they can come get this.
Mhm.
It should be in the show notes. But yeah, what are some key takeaways just as a reminder?
Yeah, I would say understand to your point that you can't outpace the market. So I love your tip on either if you want to go really aggressive with your discount strategy or pricing strategy, maybe that's a way that you can get ahead of it. But other than that, I think it's just understanding the timing and then classic things of scale winners, cut losers. That's always important, but it is, I would say, even more important during Q4 because the winners can go really high and the losers can go really low. So
Mhm.
it's not I would say, like, there's obviously good things in here, there's a helpful checklist to, like, kinda keep things in the back of your mind, but I would say the main thing is doing the analytics up front, um, setting yourself up to know when this is going to happen, understanding how to read the signals of it happening so you can get ahead of it, I think is the most important piece, and then the rest of it should typically follow your general best practices of,
Mhm.
things are going well, you're still optimizing for a goal. And then I would say the post-day strategy, again, still optimizing. I think the pro tip there is just using shorter look back windows to identify things.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's very well said. Like using a shorter look back window, especially when data changes day over day so
Mhm.
drastically.
Which
I
changes
just
so
think,
fast.
yeah, and like that graph is just so handy. Like search volume absolutely
Yeah,
spiking
I
and
mean,
dropping
like
back down. Yeah.
you can pretty much look at any of your account and graph it. It show. I mean, you could see like this. It's
Yeah.
it goes down, and this is not even us like, yes, we cut spend, but that's more a market behavior than
Hmm.
anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Like some your spend, if you left your bids and budgets completely
So, yeah,
flat on a
it would be
campaign for
crazy.
the entire time, it would go the exact same way because it mirrors the customer behavior or shopper behavior. Yeah. Well, Liz, thanks for bringing your A game as you always do. Where can people find you?
Yeah, definitely. So the best place to reach out to me is our website, junglr.com. And I'm sure we'll have a link to this playbook. I can share the link with you as well, if you want to put
Yeah,
that in the
please.
show notes, or if you find me on any of the socials and you're like, hey, you had that playbook, I want to get a hold of it. Like, let me know. I'll send it to you.
Perfect. That's awesome. Well, Liz, thanks again. For everyone else, until next time.